Hey there, YouTube. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're recapping all of this weekend's action. Up next, I'm not one to kick somebody when they're down, but Cincinnati Reds, I mean, what are we doing? Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, May 16th. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had a no-hitter, kind of. Waiver wire adometer. We haven't done that yet this season. Our pools pitching a game. Fun. And I will not watch another Charlie Morton start this season. But let's jump right in.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
You know, first of all, how are you guys doing, man? How's the weekend? What's going on, Scotty?
You know, this is my least favorite question that you ask me. I don't know why you're asking me.
I haven't asked.
I had a great weekend.
Let's go, Chris.
I went to the movies twice on Friday. I saw 2 different multiversal movies.
Did you pay for both of them?
Yes. Yeah, I went at different times, too. It wasn't like I just sat through 2 movies. I went once during the afternoon because I'm off on Fridays. And then my wife and I went and saw Doctor Strange in the evening. Doctor Strange was good, really fun. They let Sam Raimi do weird Sam Raimi stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Evil Dead movies, but they are like truly bizarre horror movies. The third one is barely a horror movie. It's fun, though. The one I saw before that, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Oh, my goodness, this movie is so good, you guys. I cannot recommend it more highly. Go see it while it's still in theaters. I can't say anything about it except that it is just delightful and absurd and ridiculous. Go see it. It's so good.
All right. So appreciate that. And I think those words that you used to describe that movie, it's a pretty good way to describe Hunter Greene, right? Delightful, absurd. The Reds lose 1-0 despite throwing a combined no-hitter. So they walked the bases loaded in the 8th inning on Sunday, then allowed a run to score on an RBI ground out by Cabrian Hayes. But overall, Hunter Greene was still pretty damn good in the start. He threw 7 1/3 no-hit innings. Of course, he gets charged with the run, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts, 15 swinging strikes on 118 pitches. He is 64% rostered. Shout out to you, Scott. Fortune favors the brave, coming through big time for you.
Was that my pick?
Yeah, Hunter Greene. Last week, that was your pick.
Oh, okay, yeah, for the 2 starts. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that did work out, didn't it? Yeah.
Shout out to you. So what do we do with this guy? He's 64% rostered, Hunter Greene. He's at the Blue Jays this week. Do you just kind of pick him back up and see where it goes?
I mean, there's clearly lots of upside here, so probably does need to be rostered by somebody in your league. It does kind of feel like it's kind of a tightrope walk here. He's seemed to learn now 2 starts in a row that if he emphasizes the slider over that very hard but very straight fastball, that good things happen. It's worked 2 starts in a row. But we've seen other pitchers try to navigate this same approach, and it seems it might have a short shelf life. It might have a short shelf life, particularly if he's struggling with his control like he did in this start. I mean, yes, he allowed no hits, but 5 walks is an awful lot of walks, and he's not going to be able to get away with that every start, because he's not going to allow no hits every start. So, yeah, I think he probably deserves to be rostered, but I don't have a high degree of trust in Hunter Greene all of a sudden. I think you still want to use him cautiously with the right matchups and not make him an instrumental part of your pitching staff yet.
All right. Hunter Greene, remember back on May 5th, he got destroyed by the Brewers. In 2 starts since then, he's allowed just 2 earned runs, but he does have 9 walks during that span. Chris, do you like the idea of adding Hunter Greene again after this start, but maybe not throwing him back in your lineup at the Blue Jays this week?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, look, the thing with him is he appears to have one really, really excellent pitch in the slider, and then the fastball, the quality of contact numbers are really bad on this pitch, despite the fact that, like, he was a starting pitcher today who had the 5 hardest thrown balls in Major League Baseball today. That is really rare. You might see one starting pitcher up there most days, and he had all 5. And I don't know, maybe the top 10. The leaderboard only goes to 5. But So he throws really incredibly hard, but like Scott said, it's been really hittable, and it was in the minors as well. And so he's got a decent whiff rate with it, but an expected WOBA of 512 with his fastball. He's given up 9 home runs with the pitch. That's really, really bad. And so it's going to limit how effective he can be. But if that just becomes a normal bad pitch instead of, I mean, right now it's been like worst in baseball in terms of the quality of contact, then there's significant upside here. So, yeah, I definitely think Hunter Greene is roster worthy.
All right, let's lump Hunter Greene back in with some other waiver wire pitchers from over the weekend. And Scott, we'll start with you. Do you like Hunter Greene ahead of all of these names? Is there anyone on this list that you also like? Marco Gonzalez makes it 3 solid starts in a row. He gave up 1 run over 6 innings against the Mets on Friday. Michael Lorenzen, 4th quality start this season. He was at Oakland, 7 innings, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. Bruce Zimmerman has now allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all 7 of his starts. Nick Pivetta has allowed just 1 earned run over his last 2 starts. And then Martin Perez, his 5th straight quality start on Sunday, this one against Boston, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts this time out. Scott, do you like Hunter Greene ahead of all of these names?
Yeah, I would put him ahead of all of those names. I think the most interesting apart from Greene are Lorenzen, who, you know, that trying to find the number I'm trying to cite here. He actually has like pretty good predictor stats in terms of the ERA, even though there hasn't been a lot of strikeouts, even though there hasn't been a great swinging strike rate. He's, you know, getting a lot of ground balls, and you know what, they're not as good as
his issue.
His xERA, I guess, is the main one.
The issue for Lorenzen is he actually has decent swing and miss rates or whiff rates on his pitches. The problem is he's just got massive platoon splits. I know he had a strikeout rate below 10% against lefties coming into this start. I'm not sure, you know, exactly how much better or worse that got, but that seems to be the big thing holding him back. But I like a lot of the component parts for Lorenzen.
And we might be to the point where some people, I'm not saying he's must add, but I do think maybe Martin Perez needs to be picked up in some leagues. He has really leaned into the ground ball tendencies this year, unlike ever before. And while his numbers are obviously unsustainable, could he be a decent play most of the time? I think it's possible. And I like him more at this point than like the Bruce Zimmermans of the world. Some of these other guys you named, Nick Pivetta, Marco Gonzalez. I mean, I don't think Martin Perez's upside is in a different class from those pitchers, but I'm developing a higher level of trust in him, I would say, than those pitchers.
By the way, Lorenzen has 5 strikeouts to 8 walks in 64 plate appearances against left-handed batters. So until he figures that out, there's really only so good he can be.
I will point out with Lorenzen, really like the matchup this week. He's going up against Oakland once again. Obviously, it's a great matchup. 42% rostered is Michael Lorenzen. And if you play in a points league, he has SPARP eligibility. So that helps his case out as well. Martin Perez, by the way, 53% ground ball rate, Scott. So I know you referenced that. That would be his highest since 2016. So
yeah, and he's throwing the sinker a lot more. So it's not just by happenstance that's happening to him. It seems to be a deliberate aim of Perez's. I do want to mention though, like if you're talking about waiver wire pitches, 2 guys who didn't pitch this weekend that I would take over Hunter Greene or any of these guys are Josh Winder still, who's less rostered than Greene, and his teammate who's beginning a rehab assignment, Bailey Ober, is widely available. So, you know, if you're debating Greene or someone else, those are the someone else's you should be considering.
All right. Martin Perez, by the way, he's 36% rostered, so widely available. He's at Houston this week. If you add him, sure, take a shot, but probably don't want to have him in your lineup for that matchup. A few other names, waiver wire pitchers that emerged this weekend. These are more so for deeper leagues, but interesting nonetheless. Chase Silselth. So an interesting name. don't try to say it too fast. He's 11% rostered. He's a prospect for the Angels, and he threw 6 shutout innings with 1 hit, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts at Oakland on Friday. Jake Junis has now allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in all 4 of his starts/appearances. He's been a follower, I believe, or a bulk reliever multiple times. Zach Thompson, 2 scoreless outings in a row. Rich Hill has allowed 2 earned runs over his last 4 starts. And Justin Steele had a pretty interesting start on Sunday. 6 innings, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts to 2 walks. Chris, anyone catch your eye here? Chase Silself, Jake Junis, Zach Thompson, Rich Hill, Justin Steele.
I think Chase Silseth is the most interesting of the group by far. First player from the 2021 draft class to make it to the majors. And the stuff looked pretty good. You know, he was someone who was... He was like a 11th round pick or something like that, but he signed for way over slot. He got like $600,000. So he was clearly more talented than the slot that he was drafted as. And the splitter looked really good. I mean, the fastball, you know, he came out averaging 96 miles per hour with his fastball, but the splitter, he threw it 35% of the time, got 6 swings and misses with it. A bunch of weak contact with both of those pitches. So, yeah, I think... Chase Silseth, is he staying in the rotation or did he already get sent back down? Because that was a doubleheader.
He hasn't gotten sent back down. The Angels like to go 6-man a lot because it gives Ohtani an extra day. They didn't have to this week, but because they didn't send Silseth down.
You would think he's staying in the rotation.
Yeah, you would think. And I removed Noah Syndergaard from the 2-star pitcher rankings. In that expectation.
Yeah, no, he's. I'd probably rather take a chance on him than Martin Perez.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Just on the off chance, and over Michael Lorenzen as well. So basically everyone but Hunter Greene that we've talked about so far. And I think Jake Junis is pretty interesting. The fact that he's throwing that slider 56% of the time, the Giants clearly, you know, have a well-earned at this point reputation for getting the most out of, you know, mid-career veteran acquisitions like him. And so his slider's been by far his best pitch throughout his career. I don't know how good he can be with this approach. You know, there's, like Scott said, with the slider-heavy approach for Hunter Greene, you might reach a point of diminishing returns. But, yeah, I'm interested in Jake Junis right now. I think I'd rather have him than Martin Perez, too.
All right. I will mention with Justin Steele, again, he had the 10 strikeouts on Sunday. That was against Arizona. Faces the Diamondbacks again this week. So if you need a streamer in a deeper league, 11% rostered. I noticed in this start, Justin Steele, he lowered his 4-seam fastball usage about 20% compared to his season mark. Lots more sinkers and curveballs, and ultimately it worked out well for him here on Sunday. That was a very long, oh my goodness gracious, for just Hunter Greene. But Scott, who would you like to highlight from the weekend?
How about old Chuck E. Cheese? Charlie Morton making us all look like geniuses.
You love to see it.
You love to see. Yeah, against the Padres. 2 hits allowed in 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 15 swinging strikes on just 83 pitches. He has now allowed 2 hits in each of his last 2 starts. But this is the one where the whiffs came back. Like we wanted to see, like we love to see. And I think this is the turnaround. I think if you benched him, you need to get him back in your lineup and just ride him out till the end. Because nothing looked that wrong with him, just in terms of arsenal or like the raw, like velocity, obviously. None of that. There were no obvious red flags. I think it was just having trouble with the feel of some of his pitches, having some trouble spotting some of his pitches, just normal build-up type of stuff. But I think he's ready to roll now. Is Charlie Morton?
Yeah, he looked fantastic in this start. I wouldn't know because I didn't watch it live. I watched the highlights afterwards. But from what I saw, the curveball was on, looked filthy, finally able to command the fastball. That was a huge issue for him early in the season. And he broke a streak of 5 straight starts, Charlie Morton did, with 3+ walks. So getting down to just 1 walk in this start, the whiffs are up, the strikeouts, obviously, for Charlie Morton. So get him back in your lineup. On the other side, by the way, Sean Manaea, gives up some hits and some runs, 7+ innings, but 6 hits, 3 runs, 12 strikeouts, 23 swinging strikes on 104 pitches. I noticed
I can't believe his ERA is 3.77. I thought he was pitching much better than that. He had just like one big blow up start.
He had a few starts where he gave up some runs. I don't think it was anything too.
He's had
crazy.
He's only had one worse than a quality start. He gave up 6 earned runs in 4 1/3 against the Dodgers. Everything else has been a quality start or better.
Well, I mean, even in this start, 3 earned runs in 7 innings. That's not going to lower that ERA that much.
Yeah.
As good as the stuff was. And you were about to say, Frank, his velocity was up 1 mile per hour and a half.
Yeah.
So the lost velocity suddenly came back. And I feel like we saw that with a few pitchers this weekend.
Yeah, Robbie Ray is one that we'll mention too. A bunch of whiffs, velocity up. So overall, I think a good sign for Robbie Ray. But this was part of the reason why I was in on Manaea coming into the season was his velocity being up last year and the swinging strike rate also being up. His swinging strike rate right now is a career high, 13.4%. So I know the overall ERA doesn't look too good. The estimators look a lot better for Sean Manaea. Very encouraged by what I saw from both him and Charlie Morton this weekend. Chris, oh my goodness gracious for you.
Yeah, I think we got to talk about Tarek Skubal, who had an excellent start against the Orioles, 11 strikeouts, over 6 shutout innings, 2 walks, only 2 batted balls, over 95 miles per hour. He had 21 swinging strikes on 100 pitches total. It was a very, very good start for Tarek Skubal, who I've been skeptical of so far this season, but he keeps pitching really well, and he, at least in the early going, seems to have fixed his biggest issue from last season, which was the quality of contact. He was one of the worst in baseball in terms of quality of contact allowed, 455 expected WOBA on contact last season. This season it's down to 356, and we know that given the environment that we're playing in, it's relatively even better than that because quality of contact is not as quality as it appears based on last season. And he's made some interesting changes to his approach. He's lowered his 4-seam fastball usage. That makes sense. He had a 429 expected WOBA allowed with that pitch. This season it's down to 206, which would be, I mean, one of the best pitches in baseball if he was able to sustain that. So I don't know how sustainable that will end up being. Quality of contact, batted ball metrics for pitchers, those take a long time to stabilize. Pitchers don't have nearly as much control over, the quality of contact, where that contact goes, line drives, ground balls, as hitters do. So, it's still early, and it's still fair to be skeptical. And the fact that his strikeout rate isn't dramatically improved from last year, it's actually a little bit worse, gives me reason to be skeptical still, but I don't know. I can't be too skeptical about Tarek Skubal right now. He's looked really, really good over his last few starts especially.
All right. Scott, how about you? You're buying the breakout here for Tarek Skubal. We've talked about him quite a bit. It really just looks like he's progressed as a pitcher with this pitch mix and throwing more sinkers. He's getting more ground balls. The control has been fantastic. 8 walks over his first, I believe it's either 6 or 7 starts. Are you buying this with Tarek Skubal?
I think it still deserves some skepticism. Like, I'm not going to panic sell Tarek Skubal. For the most part, if I got him, I'm happy with him. And I'm, I could call him a sell high candidate, I guess. But at the same time, it would have to be a pretty nice return for me to sell him. And the reason, I'm a little more skeptical of him than somebody like Kyle Wright is Kyle Wright, there's something very specific going on that's different with him. It's not just, the numbers are better. It's the fastball is better. The curveball is way better, and he's using it more. And that hasn't, there's an obvious tangible change there that is driving the improved performance. And in Skubal's case, it's harder to pick out. It looks like, as you said, Frank, it's just kind of, he improved in the margins in a few different areas. Pitch mix, command seems a little bit better.
The thing that's really tough, I think, is his fastball results have been much better than they were last season. He had a 611
Yeah,
slugging
I
percentage.
think that's command. I think that's just how he's locating the pitch.
The
More
problem
on
is
the edges of the zone.
his average exit velocity is down from 92.5 miles per hour to 92.1. So effectively not down. I mean, that's a negligible difference. Launch angle's down from 19 degrees to 18 degrees. So it's like the pitch, the whiff rate is basically what it was last season. But for some reason, the results have been so much better. And given how, like I said earlier, how little control the pitchers tend to have over quality of contact and the results on balls in play, that's the primary reason I'm skeptical, is that Tarek Skubal has gone from having what looked like one of the worst fastballs in baseball to what looks like one of the best in the early going. But I don't like the spin rate effectively the same, the velocity effectively the same. And so even like his sinker, the results and the expected results are right in line with what they were last season. It's specifically just his four-seam fastball. So that's where it's like, it's possible that there's something tangible there that's changed that's hard to suss out. And maybe he's just controlling the ball better, like you said, but it just, skepticism is the word I'm going to continue to use with him. It's not that he can't be good. It's just, it's too early for me to say with confidence.
And if he is that reliant on having better command, like that's something that might be harder to sustain over the course of the, like Tarek Skubal is, it's easy to say, okay, former top prospect making good, but he's a very different pitcher now than when he was a top prospect. So I don't know that's what's happening here. Maybe he's reinvented himself in a very smart way, and it is going to continue for Skubal, but I just don't know.
I would say he's a sell high candidate. I mean, I know pitching is so relatively easy to come by right now that it might be hard to sell him for something of too much value, but my sense is that worse days are ahead for Tarek Skubal.
All right. I think it could be a less is more situation too, Chris, just throwing that four-seam fastball less. Maybe that's allowed it to play up better, along with the sinker and the slider and everything else he's doing right now. Again, that is Tarek Skubal. I will say get him in your lineups this week. He's at Cleveland. He's only 66% started. Cleveland is 27th in weighted on base average against left-handed pitching this season. How about just an oh my goodness gracious game? Sunday night baseball. The Cards win 15-6. Just an awesome game all around. I guess not if you had Carlos Rodon in your lineups. I'm sorry. But Paul Goldschmidt went 3 for 4 with his fourth homer. The batting average is now up to 312. Nolan Arenado hit his 8th home run. Yadier Molina had a big game, 2 for 3 with his second home run. Adam Wainwright off the COVID IL, 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. Move over Ohtani. Albert Pujols pitching in the 9th inning. That was awesome to see. Of course, he gave up 4 runs and 2 home runs, but it was fun nonetheless. And then, Carlos Rodon, he gave up 8 runs on 10 hits over 3 2/3 innings. I don't see anything that stands out that I'm actually worried about. I really just think that the Cardinals did a fantastic job. They jumped on him very early in the count, and they were just attacking those first pitches, and they did a great job. So I really just think it's a credit to the Cardinals. Chris, anything here to actually be worried about with Rodon?
No, I mean, the Cardinals do hit lefties well, and his velocity was fine. His spin rate was where it normally is. I don't really they didn't really even hit him all that hard overall. He had an 87 mile per hour average exit velocity allowed. So I'm skeptical that this is that the Cardinals have given the blueprint to hitting Carlos Rodon, given how good he's been over the past couple of seasons. So I don't think there's anything to be worried about there.
All right, let's move over to some hitters. The waiver wire hitter ad-o-meter. That's a long one, but let's calibrate this thing right now. 10 must add, should be owned in 100% of leagues. I guess we could just do this in 10% increments of if it's 5 out of 10, then he should be 50% rostered. Anyway, something like that. 1, you need to add this player. Let's start with Yuli Gurriel, who had a big weekend. He's gotten off to a really slow start and then really got going. 8 hits, 2 homers, 1 steal this weekend. He's 66% rostered, has 7 games this upcoming week against the Rangers and at the Red Sox. Scott, we'll start with you. 1 to 10, Yuli Gurriel, the ad-o-meter.
I'm going to say 8 on Yuli Gurriel. He's defending batting champ in the AL. Let's not forget. Great lineup context. The Astros still lean on him every day, even at 37 years of age. Slow start had nothing to do with that age, I don't think, because his strikeout rate is like 11%. It's as good as it usually is. And yeah, he seems to be heating up. So first base is a position with a lot of redundancies, and it may be hard to fit him on every roster. I also think he's best suited for points leagues since he has the great contact rate without the big power you expect from a first baseman. So that's why it's only 8, but it definitely needs to be up from 66.
Okay. Would you drop Spencer Torkelson for Gurriel in a points league, Scott?
Yeah, in a points league. You'll probably have another shot at Torkelson in a points league.
All right. Torkelson is 73% rostered. So if you're in that predicament, you could look to make that swap. I probably should have lined this up so that Scott could talk about Brendan Rodgers. You could still talk.
No, I actually think it's better.
All right.
Scott's incapable of thinking clearly about Brendan Rodgers. No.
All right. Well, let's hear what you have to say about him then, Chris. Brendan Rodgers also has a big weekend. 7 hits, 1 homer, 5 RBI. He's 60% rostered. He's got 6 games this week. They are all in Coors Field. What is the ADO-meter on Brendan Rodgers?
I think he probably should be like a 7 or an 8. I'm not going to say a 10. I don't think he needs to be 100% rostered because, look, the underlying numbers for him are still pretty bad. Expected WOBA on contact is 362. It was 364 last season. And, as much as we liked him last season, he was fringy for pretty long stretches. And I don't know if he can hit righties well enough to, really be an impactful everyday player. He had a 733 OPS against them last season. This season, I believe it's under 500, which I think he's better than that. But quality of contact metrics are all pretty middling for Brendan Rodgers. I do worry that he's kind of just a guy, but just a guy who plays half his games in Coors Field probably should be, 80% rostered at least. So I'll say that.
Hey, Randall Grichuk was just a guy, and now look what he's doing with the Rockies.
Well, he's down 260 now.
Oh, yeah.
We finally got people on board with adding Randall Grichuk, and then he went in the slump.
Nice little nosedive there. Scott, would you drop someone like Gavin Lux for Brendan Rodgers right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. Do you have any other thoughts, rebuttals for Brendan Rodgers?
No, no. I think Chris summed it up fine. I don't know that the quality of contact metrics mean that much to me right now because he's obviously just gotten off to a horrible start. So, this weekend is the first real signs of life he's shown. So they haven't had a chance to correct that much yet.
But my counter to that would just be that he hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt yet. He's still, I think, very much trying to work his way into the circle of trust. And so I can't just overlook middling quality of contact metrics. By the way, Gavin Lux's numbers have taken his quality of contact and underlying numbers have taken a complete nosedive. It's startling how bad his expected WOBA was down to 259.
Yikes.
And again, that's likely inflated by the current offensive environment.
Yeah. So, all right, Gavin Lux, someone you could probably drop. Can you drop him for this next player? Let's find out. Royce Lewis went 2 for 4 on Friday. He had his first career home run, a grand slam. He's been playing every day with Carlos Correa on the IL. 49% rostered is Royce Lewis. He's got 6 road games this week. Scott, where is Royce Lewis on the ADO-meter?
Maybe a 6. It's Carlos Correa is about to come back Monday, and Royce Lewis was on the roster before Correa went on the IL, but Correa wasn't able to play. And obviously he'll be able to play Monday. So we haven't seen if the Twins are willing to move Royce Lewis somewhere else on the diamond to keep him around. They may just send him down when Correa gets called up. They could potentially send down Jose Miranda instead, who hasn't been doing much. But that's only if they're willing to play Lewis somewhere other than shortstop. And he's played a lot of other positions in the minors, so they may very well do that with him. But we won't know until we see it. So for now, I'm going to say 6 for Royce Lewis. If he sticks around, then I'll up it to 7.
All right. Chris, you get Jorge Soler, 8 hits over his last 8 games, including 4 home runs, slowly creeping back up. He is down to 61% rostered. The Adometer on Jorge Soler.
I would say 7 or 8. He's not a must roster player, but we've seen when Jorge Soler gets hot, he has a tendency to get really, really hot. And sometimes he gets hot for an entire half season and, hits 25 home runs in 60 games or whatever it was in 2018, or 2019, sorry. So, yeah, I think he's someone who, when he's rolling deserves to be rostered, and just, you probably have a spot in your outfield for Jorge Soler. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and add him.
I think I'd go 10 for Soler in Roto specifically.
Sure.
But he may be rostered in all the Roto leagues already, 61%. That may basically cover all those anyway.
But I think he's a fringe starter in head-to-head points leagues because he opened the season around 40th for me in the rankings, and I've moved him down, but there's not a lot of guys I've wanted to move ahead of him. So I think he's absolutely a fringe 3 outfielder guy.
He is, in terms of impacting the ball hard. Like, he's in the upper class of that and consistently has been. The production hasn't been as consistent as the Giancarlo Stantons and Aaron Judges, but he's in that same conversation for quality of contact. And if we're saying quality of contact is more important now than ever, I think Jorge Soler in 5 outfielder leagues, in Roto leagues, is definitely somebody you're going to want to cling to through the ups and downs. Because remember, it was the second half last year when he finally caught fire. From like the last week of July on, his last week with the Royals through the end of the season, he hit 27 home runs, I believe it was. It's like a 48 homer pace. Mm-hmm. And we've seen him have a 48 homer season before. So, like, yeah, Jorge Soler is, if you're worried about your team's power supply, he should be able to help with it at some point. Maybe it's beginning.
All right. For those in deeper leagues, Scott, any of these names catch your eye? Let's say 5 outfielder leagues. Will Myers, he had 5 hits this weekend, including a home run. Travis Demeritte, 5 hits, including 2 walks. He's been leading off with Ronald Acuna banged up. Cole Calhoun had a double dong on Sunday, including 6 hits total this weekend. Eli White for the Texas Rangers, he has 4 steals over his last 5 games. The Rangers are usually pretty aggressive on the base paths as well. And then Jonathan Daza had 5 hits this weekend with the Rockies. He's now batting .383. Kind of empty batting average, but he's got all these games at Coors Field this week. Scott, any interest in deeper leagues? Daza, Eli White, Cole Calhoun, Travis Demeritte, Will Myers.
My favorite has been Demeritte because it seems like he's going to stick in the Braves lineup with Eddie Rosario out. Even when Acuna's been there, Demeritte's stayed in the lineup. He's tended to. And yeah, he hits the ball legitimately hard. He may not hit it enough. The strikeout rate's been a little better this year. He also runs pretty well, so he hasn't stolen a base yet, but you could see that becoming a contribution for him. Even for the deeper leagues, yeah, but I think he's the most interesting of this group.
Okay. Eli White was someone I was adding in those 15-team Roto leagues, 5 outfielders, just because speed is so hard to come by. He's already got 7 steals. I don't think he's actually that great, but the Rangers play 7 games this week. Again, the name there, Eli White. Chris, any interest in these in deeper leagues? Mike Moustakas had a double dong on Friday. The problem, the Reds only have 5 games this upcoming week. Miguel Cabrera had 6 hits this weekend, including 2 home runs. He's now batting .297. And another name for speed, Andrew Velasquez, who's been playing consistently at shortstop for the Angels. His last 7 games, he's batting .348, 1 homer, 2 steals, and he has 6 steals overall in the season in 29 games played. Chris, any interest? Moustakas, Miguel Cabrera, Andrew Velasquez.
Velasquez in Roto leagues just for stolen base potential, but I don't think there's much there beyond that. Moustakas, I don't know. He's hitting home runs, but his underlying numbers are pretty mediocre. But the underlying numbers have always been pretty mediocre for Mike Moustakas, and he's always been someone who's kind of maximized what he has by pulling the ball a ton. And I don't know, maybe he can continue doing that, but no, I'm pretty skeptical of Moustakas.
Right. Scott, are you looking to add any Giants or Mets hitters for this week because they each have a series in Coors Field? That would include names like Mike Yastrzemski, Evan Longoria, Luis Gonzalez, who's actually quietly been pretty good for the Giants this year. Mark Canha, also 44% rostered. Any interest in those names?
Not those names, but Darren Ruff was the one I had in my top 10 sleeper hitters column. He is hit safely now. Oh, he was out of the lineup today, but that's rare for him. He's close to an everyday player for the Giants. And excluding
I'm not
today.
So sure, Scott. I'm not so sure because Darren Ruff, it looks like he has been playing, but he hasn't started in 5 straight games. So he's just getting like pinch hit appearances, I guess, which is weird.
He's getting multiple at bats.
Yeah, I heard on the broadcast that they pinch hit their cleanup hitter in the 6th inning the other day, which is, I don't know, the most Giants thing you could do, I guess. But yeah, he hasn't started 5 straight, but he is still kind of getting at bats.
That's annoying.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, then I guess it's hard to recommend him. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Let's take a break. But first, if you listen to us on Spotify, I think about a year ago, they now allow you to leave 5-star ratings. Well, any star ratings, but we would appreciate a 5-star rating if you listen to us on Spotify. Please make that happen. Let's take a break and we'll return right after this. The news and notes. Byron Buxton is playing through knee issues and the Twins will be measured with his usage until it's healed. Sounds like maybe they might not let him run very much, but he still managed to hit 2 home runs this weekend. So the bat still plays. Chris Bryant will start a rehab assignment at AAA on Tuesday. Could be back this Friday. He's on the IL with back stiffness. Jared Kelenic was optioned back to AAA this weekend. Optimal timing, huh? They wouldn't let him face his former team in the New York Mets. Suspicious. Anyway, he was batting 140 with a 37.5% strikeout rate. Chris, is it okay to drop Jared Kelenic?
Yeah, it's definitely okay. In like 15-team leagues, I'm still hanging on to Joe Adell, so I would still hang on to Jared Kelenic. But yeah, he's droppable in anything 12 or shorter or smaller.
All right. Steven Strasburg threw 2 innings in a simulated game at extended spring training on Friday. Miguel Sano was transferred to the 60-day IL. He underwent surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee in early May. Alex Kirilloff was optioned back to AAA. He was batting just 172 over 10 games. Scott, is it okay to drop Alex Kirilloff?
Yes.
Okay. Matt Manning needs another rehab start while Casey Mize will have his rehab slowed down. Alex Faedo will make another start on Monday against the Tampa Bay Rays. I would guess, depending on what happens with Matt Manning and Mize, if Faedo pitches well, they'll probably give him another start in the majors later on this week. Mauricio Dubon was traded to the Astros on Saturday in exchange for catcher Michael Papierski. That's what we'll go with. Robinson Cano will officially signed on with the Padres. I believe he started on Sunday at second base for them. Yankees manager Aaron Boone recently indicated that Domingo Germán could stretch out to work as a starter when he begins his minor league rehab assignment. He's currently on the 60-day IL with a shoulder injury. I guess that would assume that they go 6-man rotation, or obviously we're not hoping anyone gets hurt, but these things happen. Scott, Chris, are you looking to stash Domingo Germán anywhere?
I don't think the upside's so high that you should be using a roster spot on him unless you've got unlimited IL spots.
Yeah. Maybe it's like an AL only kind of thing for now.
Yeah,
but we've seen times where he's had value, but just a name to pay attention to. Some prospect notes. Riley Green was cleared for baseball activities after being examined by doctors on Thursday and has begun running on flat ground. He fractured his foot in early April. CJ Abrams has gone 5 for 15 with 3 homers, 9 RBI, 6 runs scored, and 2 steals in 3 games since being sent down to AAA. He's 34% rostered. I don't think he's going to be back that soon, but obviously it's good to see him hitting well. Him and Joe Adell, they got sent down, and so far Both looking pretty good.
I think they're both more stashable, especially Adele. Because Adele could be back real soon. I think they're both more stashable than Kelnick and Kirilov.
Fair enough. These names were placed on the IL this weekend, and really out of nowhere on Friday, Clayton Kershaw with inflammation in his right SI joint, which connects the base of the spine to the hip bones, which sounds very scary. He has no structural damage, and the Dodgers hope that he'll be back after a minimum stay on the IL. In fact, he played catch on Sunday and is scheduled to throw a bullpen session on Wednesday. That is Clayton Kershaw. Tyler McGill, also out of nowhere, with right biceps tendonitis. He'll be shut down from throwing for a few days before being reevaluated. Might explain his most recent start where Tyler McGill got destroyed. Unfortunate there. Jesus Luzardo went on the IL with a left forearm strain, which also sounds terrible. Scott, what are we thinking here? Max Meyer, Edward Cabrera, maybe fill that rotation spot for Luzardo?
Well, I mean, my excitement was immediately for Max Meyer. I mean, it wasn't excitement at first. I was disappointed because you're right. It does sound like the sort of injury that might be a precursor to ligament damage, but the Marlins and Luzardo himself don't seem to be talking that way. They're thinking it's going to be a minimal 15-day stint, more like he felt a little something, so this is to prevent it from becoming something more situation, precautionary measure, you might say. And if that's the case, Max Meyer's last start Friday, I believe it wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina De Nicola, who is Marlins beat writer for MLB.com, because Meyer's not on the 40-man roster, she kind of thinks it won't be him.
Although
because they're thinking a short-term absence.
I believe they don't need, I think they have only 39 guys on their 40-man roster right now.
Well, she said it was full.
No, maybe that changed then.
Yeah, maybe it changed. I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying don't pick up Meyer. I think he's been one of the top prospects to stash for a while now, and all we could do is speculate. I mean, Luzardo could suffer a setback, or the Marlins could just say, whatever, we're tired of Eliezer Hernandez. Let's give Meyer a shot. But I don't know. I don't know that this is necessarily going to be the impetus for it.
For what it's worth, Edward Cabrera also wasn't great in his most recent start, and he hasn't thrown. He finally hit 90 pitches in his most recent start, but he got a delayed start to the season. Cody Petit's going to be in the rotation at least for one turn. I can't imagine that lasts. So
he was going to start Monday, Petit, but then they moved up.
Yeah,
they moved up Sandy Alcantara instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's starting Tuesday, I believe.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I would think Max Meyer is going to get a chance sooner or later.
Come on,
sooner rather than later.
Well, yeah, he's definitely going to get a chance sooner than later.
But it may not be Tuesday.
Right.
We'll see. But another bad Eliezer Hernandez start, then I think it starts to get more interesting.
These other players also went on the IL this weekend. Manny Margot with a right hamstring strain. Michael Pineda with a right middle finger fracture. Ryan Mountcastle with a left wrist strain. Austin Meadows, after he experienced dizziness, lightheadedness, and nausea on Sunday. James McCann will miss 6 weeks with a broken hamate bone. Josh Naylor was placed on the COVID IL on Friday. Joey Wendell with a right hamstring strain, and Nico Horner with a sprained right ankle. Andrelton Simmons was activated. Should you start or sit these banged up players? Ronald Acuna has missed 4 straight games with a groin injury. He got an MRI on Saturday, but it didn't reveal anything serious. Scott, what are we thinking about Acuna this week?
I probably would not start him in 3 outfielder leagues, but 5 outfielder leagues, probably yes.
All right. Willie Adames left Sunday's game with a left ankle sprain and a left ankle injury, rather. X-rays came back negative. Chris, what do you think about Adames?
Luckily, Monday's first lineup block, I think, is 6:40 first game, so hopefully we'll have some details about that. But yeah, I would prefer not to, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And
absent more details.
The Brewers do play at 7:40, so we should have their lineup by the time lineups are getting ready to lock. So
I think his Adames has been classified as a sprain, so that could still be unless I got the wrong guy.
Sprains are that's one where it's always like it could be one day, it could be an IL stint, and you just
Right.
kind of you don't really know.
Let me make sure because he's the ankle, right?
Mhm.
I don't have it in my notes.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
They said he left Sunday's win due to a left ankle sprain. That is Willie Adames.
Yeah. A sprained ankle could still definitely put him on the IL. So I'd be wary of starting Adames unless we hear good news.
Jeremy Pena has missed 3 straight with right knee discomfort. What are we thinking there?
I mean, it's still a 10-day IL for hitters, so you miss that many games in a row. I'd try to avoid starting him too.
Yep.
Okay. Blake Snell will be activated and make his season debut Wednesday against the Phillies. He threw 59 pitches in his last rehab outing. Chris, should we maybe wait and see with Blake Snell first?
He's been really good on his minor league rehab assignment. 19 strikeouts in 13 innings. I think he's allowed 1 hit. So, hopefully that portends good things. But I'm not starting him in Tout Wars. I've got the likes of George Kirby, Alex Cobb, 2-start Merrill Kelly, and a 2-start Alex Wood ahead of him. So, not looking to get him in there right now.
Lucas Giolito went on the COVID IL Friday, but these COVID situations are really tough because it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 days. It's really hard to figure out. Scott, should we play it safe with Giolito?
Well, he had symptoms, right? So I think it's going to be closer to the long stint for him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate too because he recently came back from an injury. He was pitching pretty well. That is Lucas Giolito. A few hitters here. Just pay attention early in the week. See if they're in the lineup. Austin Hayes, Joey Votto, Jorge Mateo. Those 3 are currently a little bit banged up and/or returning from injury, I guess, in Joey Votto's case. What do we make of these 3 pitchers from the weekend? Shane Bieber, solid bounce back, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts to 3 walks at the Twins. His fastball velo was up a bit. Only 7 swinging strikes. So I just trying to figure out Bieber is tough right now. Julio Urias, he was hit pretty hard on Saturday against the Phillies. He gave up 8 runs. 5 of those were earned. He only had 3 strikeouts, 0 walks. But he's now had 4 strikeouts or fewer in 5 of 7 starts. That's Julio Urias. And then Robbie Ray, a mixed bag on Sunday. He gave up 5 runs against the Mets, but he had 27 swinging strikes and 9 strikeouts. The fastball velocity was up. Scott, we'll start with you. Bieber, Urias, Robbie Ray. What do you make of these 3?
Very encouraged by Robbie Ray. This was another one. The velocity was basically back to where we saw it last year. And if that's the case, we just need to see him get those walks down a little bit. Him having 3 in this start is not ideal. It's not what he was doing last year, but I was more worried about the stuff itself, and it seems like it's come all the way back. So I would say of the 3 now, a week ago, I might have said Robbie Ray was the one I'm most worried about. Now he's probably the one I'm least worried about. Bieber's the one I'm most worried about now at this point. It was good to see his velocity tick up a little,
but still,
but not back to where it was.
Still well below even pre-2020
right
marks.
Right. So I don't think if it is a mechanical thing, as he and the Guardians have maintained, he hasn't figured it out yet.
Weird thing about this start is he went super fastball and cutter heavy.
This is Shane Bieber?
Shane Bieber. Through those pitches, a combined 66% of the time. Yeah, my math right on that. Entering the game, he had thrown his 4-seamer about 35% of the time and his cutter about 10% of the time. So he had largely given up on the cutter last season, and 2020 was really the only year he threw it much. He threw it 15% of the time that year, but it was just an okay pitch for him. Like, it got hit somewhat hard, worst of his pitches, swing and miss rate was fine, but I don't quite know what to make of that. Because, I think as we've talked about him this season, I think the sense was that if he was going to be successful, and this is Shane Bieber, it would be slider and knuckleball or curveball, knuckle curve heavy. And that's not what we saw in this start. And I don't know. I'm worried about him. I would still be trying to sell on name value.
Again, that is Shane Bieber, so you can look to sell there. We had a nice pitchers duel on Friday. Just an awesome performance by both Pablo Lopez and Corbin Burnes. Lopez hit this most recent start, 7 innings, 1 run, 11 strikeouts to 0 walks. He had 20 swinging strikes. The ERA is down to 1.05. Corbin Burnes, 7 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts to 0 walks. On the other side, he had 16 swinging strikes. This is his 6th straight quality start following opening day where he was just kind of mediocre. But the Sierra and the swinging strike rate are actually better this year for Corbin Burnes than they were last year when he won the Cy Young. So he's absolutely been awesome. Chris, anything to add on Pablo Lopez and Corbin Burnes?
No, I mean, I guess Clayton Kershaw would be the kind of cautionary tale to just remind yourself that just because Pablo Lopez is pitching really well right now doesn't mean that the reasons we were a little scared off of him coming into the season, namely the history of shoulder injuries, it doesn't mean that he's past that just because he's pitching well. But he's a top 20 pitcher for me right now.
All right, let's move into some starter sit pitchers. These are kind of fringy options. They're started in less than 70% of CBS leagues right now. So should we get them in our lineups? We'll start with Tyler Mahle, who delivered his first quality start of the season at the Pirates this weekend. 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. Scott, would you start Mahle at Cleveland this week?
I'd lean against it.
Fair enough. Let's move over to Eduardo Rodriguez. He turns in his 2nd quality start in a row, this one against the Orioles. 6 2/3 shutout, 4 walks to 3 strikeouts. You don't love that. He's at Tampa Bay this week. Chris, what do you think about that for Erod?
My preference would be to avoid him. He just can't get swings and misses right now. And I don't know what's going on there. His swing and miss, his whiff rate on his 4-seam fastball has basically been cut in half from last year. Change-up swing and miss rate has fallen off. So, I don't know. I'm definitely a little concerned about it right now. He's still getting pretty good results on balls in play, but, would like to see that change. The swings and misses, I mean, not the quality of contact.
Logan Webb, this one might surprise you. He's only started in 68% of CBS leagues right now. He did turn in another quality start on Friday. 6 innings, 1 run, 3 walks to 1 strikeout. Don't love that. The problem is he's at Coors Field this week, Scott. Do you get Logan Webb out of your lineups?
I think if you can, I mean, he hasn't been that impressive. He's been okay because the ground ball rate is so exemplary.
Yeah.
But he hasn't looked nearly as effective as the guy we saw down the stretch last year and at Coors Field. Yeah, I think that's reason enough to, if you can get him out of your lineup, do so.
The whiff rate on Logan Webb's slider has basically fallen in half. It was 47% last season. It's 24.6%. I don't really know what to make of that because spin rate, velocity, that stuff all looks mostly the same. And looks like the movement profile is pretty much the same. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But that's if you're wondering why Logan Webb isn't getting strikeouts like he did last season, that's the primary culprit.
Paul Blackburn has back-to-back quality starts. He lowered his ERA to 1.67 this weekend. Chris, would you play Blackburn at the Angels?
I mean, we've said no on everyone else so far, so at some point we're gonna have to start someone. But I'm pretty skeptical overall on Blackburn, so I'll say yes, but I don't love him.
All right. George Kirby was not as successful in his 2nd start at the Mets. He gave up 3 runs, only one of those earned on over 4 innings pitched. He's only started in 30% of CBS leagues right now. Scott, what do you think at Boston this week for George Kirby?
Did you just feel pressured to say yes to Blackburn against the Angels? You felt
bit,
like
yeah.
you had to say
a little bit. I mean, look, I would rather start him than Logan Webb. I would rather start him than Eduardo Rodriguez. I would probably rather start him than Tyler Mahle. So yeah, that's a little bit of that, but
he would be at the bottom of that rank list for me, for what it's worth.
Not very much.
Not very.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, part of the issue with this exercise is just like these are all 1-start pitchers who are, by definition, not must-start. So it's just, who else do you have is really the ultimate question. So it's hard to give a decisive answer, yes or no, on any of them. But
I'll give one.
I think George Kirby is the most interesting to me, even though his second start was lackluster. The Red Sox are a decent matchup, and I think the stuff is really good, and you at least know he's going to throw strikes.
Hyunjin Ryu made his return over the weekend at Tampa Bay. He allowed 1 run over 4 2/3. He is up against the Cincinnati Reds this week, which is a good matchup. What do you think there, Chris?
I will give a definitive yes on this one.
It's the Ryu?
It's the Reds.
It's the Reds.
It is Ryu, though.
I will start him against the Reds.
All right. Trevor Rogers finally has that standout strikeout performance that we were looking for. He gives up 1 run over 5 1/3, 8 strikeouts against the Brewers this weekend. He is at home against the Braves. What do you think, Scott? Trevor Rogers?
I mean, he's not must start. I wish more of the whiffs that he got in this last start were on the changeup.
Yep.
Because that's supposed to be his strikeout pitch. And it wasn't in this start. It hasn't been all year. So I don't know that he's fixed. And the Braves, they can do some damage. So, most cases, I think I'd probably start Trevor Rogers. But, weigh your options.
Luis Castillo.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the whiffs on the changeup, especially. It's down to 20%. It was 34% last season. It's his lowest whiff rate on any of his pitches. He's getting more whiffs with his fastball right now than his changeup. That's really surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you want to look at it glass half full, the fact that, he hasn't been completely awful, and he just doesn't seem like he has his changeup yet. Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's a buy overall.
Right.
But against the Braves, I would be a little wary.
What about Luis Castillo? Again, another slow start so far this season. He allowed 3 runs over 5 innings pitched. He only had 6 swinging strikes at the Pirates this weekend. Chris, would you start Luis Castillo at the Blue Jays?
I would try not to.
Yeah. Last one on this list.
I would rather start Hyunjin Ryu.
Yeah. The velo for Luis Castillo fastball down 2 miles per hour compared to last year, which again, his velo started off slow last year and then slowly, continued to rise throughout the season. But so far, not so good for Luis Castillo. Tristan McKenzie is the last one on this list. He gave up 3 runs over 7 innings against the Twins on Sunday. 15 swinging strikes. You'd like to see that. Scott, would you start him against the Tigers? That's Tristan McKenzie.
Yeah, I'd lean yes on that.
Yeah, I like that one too. Let's wrap up with some leftovers from the weekend. Some studs being studs. Part 1, starting pitcher edition. Max Scherzer, another strong start. 7 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. Zach Gallen had his 4th straight quality start. This one up against the Cubs. Framber Valdez, he makes it 4 straight quality starts. This one at the Nationals. And then Justin Verlander, 2 scoreless outings in a row. He got his swinging strikes up to 17 in this start. That was a season high for Verlander. Chris, anything on Scherzer, Gallen, Valdez, Justin Verlander?
No, I would just, with Gallen in particular, I think the caveat that we threw out there with Pablo Lopez applies for him as well. Just because he's healthy right now doesn't mean he's going to continue to stay healthy, and I think there's still a buy or a sell high window with Zach Gallen if someone is willing to pay something like full price for what he's doing right now.
I gotta say though, there's nobody I feel wronger about than Zach Gallen at this point in the season. Like I did not expect him to even look good. He's looked really good.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the velocity being up. I mean, it was so interesting because he came back from the injury last year and was throwing a ton of pitches, and so clearly he was feeling good. But yeah, I definitely didn't expect this kind of production from him.
I think the control is what stands out most for me with Zach Gallen. He has 1 walk or less in 5 of 6 starts this season, and entering 2022, he was averaging over 3 walks per 9. So out of nowhere, the velo is up. The control is much better for Zach Gallen. He's going deep into his starts. It all looks really good without, and then you remember that he has these injuries kind of lurking. So Keep that in the back of your mind. Studs being studs, part 2. Nasty Nestor. He was at it again at the White Sox on Sunday. 8 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, 0 walks, lowers his ERA to 1.35. Frankie Montas gives up 2 runs over 6 innings against the Angels, 12 strikeouts against that Angels lineup. Very impressive. And then Aaron Nola as well. He was at the Dodgers on Sunday, 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts in this one. Gets the ERA down to 3.64. Scott, anything on Nola, Montas, Nestor Cortez?
I mean, not really anything new to say analysis-wise. Frankie Montas, I think with the 22 whiffs in this game, he now has both the best ground ball rate and the best swinging strike rate of his career. So if you needed more reason to buy into him, I'll add that.
I guess I'll be the wet blanket and say that I don't think Nestor Cortez is going to continue to be this like hugely impactful pitcher. I think he's probably going to be decent, but like
Get out,
you got a
Chris.
33% strikeout or 34% strikeout rate right now, and without a swinging whiff rate over 40, or he doesn't have a whiff rate on over 28% on any of his pitches. So I have a hard time seeing this being like. Do we really think a guy with a 12% whiff rate on his most used breaking ball, his slider, is going to keep throwing 34% strikeout rate? Like, really? Or anywhere close to it? Like, I get it. It's a great story. He's super fun to watch. I love watching him pitch. I hope I'm wrong. But I feel like he's one of the more obvious sell high pitchers out there right now.
I just don't know if you'll get anything for him because I think a lot of people probably think along the same lines as you, Chris. Or
Maybe.
Yeah.
Look, man.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I haven't moved. Like, I'm not viewing Nestor Cortez as like a Cy Young candidate or anything. You're right. He has like 12 K per 9 right now, and that's obviously hard to believe. But like, just in a direction, like, do you think he's good or do you think he's bad? Do you think he's closer to must start or streamer? I think closer to must start is what I'd say, and that's probably enough for me to hold on to him. But if you think you can shop him like an ace, of course.
Yeah, like I view him more like a top 50 pitcher than a top 30 pitcher.
Yeah.
I think
so. If I can get a top 30 pitcher value for him, that's something that I would do.
Sure, fair enough. Some hitting leftovers from the weekend. I'll give credit where it's due. I'm always ragging on Joey Gallo. 5 hits over his last 5 games, including 2 homers. He's got 7 games this week, just 1 lefty on the schedule. Whit Merrifield, a strong weekend in Coors Field. He needed that. 5 hits, 1 homer, 1 steal. Taylor Ward had 6 hits this weekend as well, including his 8th home run. Rafael Devers is heating up his last 7 games. He's batting .467 with 2 homers. I don't know what has gotten into Gene Segura, but he is on fire. In the month of May, he's batting .432 with 4 homers, 3 steals, a 1217 OPS. It's like he turned into Fernando Tatis for the month of May. I don't really know what's going on, but he's been amazing. Julio Rodriguez with the first 4-hit game of his young career. He goes 4 for 4 on Sunday's 2nd home run of the season. His batting average is now up to .264. Colton Wong had a monster game on Sunday. He went 2 for 2 with 3 walks, a homer, 2 steals. He's now up to 3 home runs overall, 8 stolen bases. Adolis Garcia had a double dong on Sunday. The batting average leaves a lot to be desired, but he does have 6 home runs and 4 steals. And Mookie Betts had a strong weekend. 5 hits, 2 homers. He is up to 7 home runs and 3 steals himself. Some bullpen updates for the Tigers. Gregory Soto on Friday entered with a 2-run lead. He hit 2 batters. Then he had a walk. He got pulled for Will Vest, who picked up his first save. Numbers look really strong for Will Vest. And then on Saturday, Soto did bounce back with his 5th save. Scott, you and I were talking beforehand. In some deeper leagues, we were looking into Will Vest this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, those deeper 15-team roto leagues where whenever a new save source emerges, they go for like a quarter of your FAB budget. You have to be a little more proactive in identifying these guys early. And Will Vest is a guy I made a point to add for a couple bucks because Soto has struggled with his control his whole career, but especially this year. And it's worth pointing out AJ Hinch mention that Soto is still his closer after Vest got this save. So he wasn't to the point of thinking of making a change yet, but Vest has been their best reliever this year. And so if he was going to make a change, that seems likely it would be to him.
All right, for the Mariners this weekend, Paul Sewald on Friday night recorded 4 outs over the 7th and 8th innings. Drew Steckenrider picked up his second save of the season. It was his first since April 8th.
I mean, that was the Sewald save on May 10th was their first since, I believe, April 22nd. Just as a team. The Mariners had been in a total free fall. So, I don't know.
It's weird. And then on Sunday, so Paul Sewald pitched in the 8th. Drew Steckenrider started the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. It was 8-5. He gave up 4 hits, 2 runs. So he was in for the save, but then he got pulled for Diego Castillo, who recorded the final 2 outs for his second save. The Mariners just seems completely up in the air right now when it comes to saves. For Tampa Bay, Brooks Raley pitched in the 8th inning on Friday night. He gave up 3 hits and a run without recording an out. Andrew Kittredge relieved him. He got out of it. Jason Adam, who also has great numbers this season, picked up his first save in the, I believe it was the 10th inning of that game. And then Kittredge bounced back on Saturday, picked up his 5th save. The Rays are kind of doing Rays things right now, but it's been Kittredge and Raley, and now Jason Adam is just a name to watch there. For Kansas City, Josh Stallmont pitched in the 8th inning on Friday. Scott Barlow picked up his 3rd save, and then same thing on Sunday. Scott Barlow picked up his 4th save.
I feel like Barlow's settling in here.
That's not. Yeah, I don't think that's a split at this point. Stallmont doesn't have a save since the 19th of April,
and he's been pretty shaky, so it's understandable why they've gone away from him.
I dropped Stallmont for Will Vest in that deeper categories league, so
yep,
I'm all right.
I do that.
For the Diamondbacks, Mark Melancon picked up his 7th save on Friday, and then on Saturday he gave up 3 runs on 2 hits, 2 walks. On Sunday, Ian Kennedy was pitching in the 9th inning in a tie game. He gave up 2 hits and a run. He takes the loss. Diamondbacks bullpen, I don't think either one is very good, Mark Melancon and Ian Kennedy, but it's, we're kind of running out of time here for Mark Melancon. For the Cardinals on Saturday, Ryan Helsley, he pitched in the 7th inning. He got the next 5 outs in that game. Giovanni Gallegos pitched in the 9th. Rowan Wick picked up 3 saves over the last 4 games. For the Cubs, David Robertson is currently on the COVID IL. And then for the Twins on Sunday, Emilio Pagan gave up a hit, but he struck out 1 for his 5th save. His ERA is down to 1.54.
He does have like a walk per inning, though, just to point out. And if I could sneak in, Pagan does.
Okay.
If I could sneak in another sneaky potential closer pickup, Matt Barnes. His most recent outing over the weekend, the velocity was back. And that's, I think, what Alex Cora was waiting to see from him. So we'll see if it holds up in the next outing, but good early indication there from Barnes.
I'll just point out, I think it's kind of funny. Like, I feel like there's like a bit of an undercurrent in fantasy Twitter now of like, when are the Cardinals going to give Ryan Helsley the closing job? And it feels like we just go through our favorite toys so quickly.
Look, he's been awesome, but
Gallego's been good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Helsley's been like otherworldly. I think he's good. He leads all relievers in swinging strike rate, but he's basically their fireman. Like whenever they need him most, that's when Ryan Helsley's coming in the game. Streamers for Monday. Let's start with Kyle Bradish up against the Yankees, Alex Faedo at the Rays, Jake Odorizzi at the Red Sox, John Gray versus the Angels, Brad Keller versus the White Sox, Chris Archer at the A's, and Zach Logue versus the Twins.
To put this into context, all those 1-start pitchers we said no to earlier are yeses over these guys. Okay.
Scott hates streamers.
And these are all mostly going to be 2-star guys.
I think Brad Keller would be my choice from this list.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, I would try to avoid it.
I think Faedo is kind of interesting. Same thing with Zach Logue, but I'd rather stay away.
Yep.
Tuesday, Connor Overton at Cleveland, JT Brubaker at the Cubs, Adrian Hauser versus the Braves, Chad Kuhl versus the Giants, James Caprillion versus the Twins. In case you thought it couldn't get worse, Scott.
It got worse.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
If you're making me start somebody Hauser, but I don't want to do it.
Don't do it. All right, we're going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.